The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to the Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
Nice.
I'm trying to find Misfits.
Well, why don't you just say,
Oh, you've started?
yeah.
What
Welcome
do
to the Winemakers
Bienvenue au
podcast.
podcast des vignerons.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm John Myers with the Winemakers podcast. As always, I'm here with Brian Casey. Special guest today, Isabelle Gassier and Julien Barrot from Domaine La Barroche in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Welcome, everybody. And Phil Couturi, I forgot you.
Oh, it's all right. And Sam's here, but he's not really. He's in his invisible suit.
Sam's on special assignment for the moment. I'm sure he has something to do with Althea this morning. So, but anyway, welcome to Sonoma. Beautiful day, man. You brought all the good weather this week.
Finally, John.
I think Julien brought the good weather. I brought a lot of rain with me on
you did.
Sunday.
Well, it's been nice. It's been a little depressing with all the rain. It's been good for Mother Earth, but a little depressing for your spirits. So it's nice to see the sun come out.
C'est la vie. So, well, this is a really special opportunity to talk to two French winemakers. This is fabulous. So, and Phil, how did you originally meet Isabelle and when?
We met. She came over with Julien Barrot and Philippe Combi for an A7 conference. That I was one of the founders of A7, along with Sasha Verhig, and they came up and stayed at my house. Then we went down to Paso. I don't think you were there for that one.
No, I was the first A7, the only one. Yeah, the first one.
The first one. This was our second presentation, and since that time, Isabelle and I have remained good friends. And I was fortunate enough to have her work with Enterprise Vineyards for theoretically 5 years, but it was 4.5. and is our consulting winemaker for 16600.
That's a great job.
It sure is. I feel very fortunate.
And so you were working with Philippe Combi on the Auditette project, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Phil and Philippe really wanted to work together. I think they were both very passionate about Grenache, and one was really good at growing it, and the other one was really good at making it. But they needed boots on the ground and hands to make it, so that's when I came into the project. And I was following Philippe's, advice and recommendations and style.
Did you work with Philippe in France then?
I was his intern in 2016.
Cool. That's a nice little gig.
It was a great gig, yeah. I got to discover Châteauneuf and a little bit of Gigondas and Côte-du-Rhône, and also discovered really high-end restaurants because Philippe was a huge fan of them. Got to
Favorite
taste,
Instagram follow ever.
and I got to discover wine. I mean, he contributed massively to my wine education. I knew very little until I met him, and he introduced me to terrific wines and memorable ones.
I'm sure. Now, Julien, did you know Philippe Combi?
Yes, I know from rugby because he was a rugby player in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. After he was a wine friend, we never had the occasion working together, but we shared a lot of bottles together.
Sounds like fun. So when did you two, Phil and Julien, when did you
met
meet?
in Châteauneuf.
Châteauneuf, 2001, 2010. I don't know.
Yeah, 2007, I reckon.
2007, yeah. And Robert and I and Mark Harold, was it?
Yes.
We did an excursion, an educational excursion to France. And
But they're all educational.
every bottle of wine, every time we sit down is educational. And we were staying at Domaine de Solitude with the Lançons, and went up and did a tasting with Julien. And Robert walked in and saw a photo because they had just done that movie.
Russell Crowe just been at the winery before you pass.
Yeah.
And Robert saw a video. Me, I saw the Three Musketeers arriving. Mark, Phil, and Robert. Or the Dalton. I don't know.
Yeah.
And arriving, and our paths met straight. And since then, we never left.
Been really good friends since. Robert, Mark, and I started in Amsterdam and then worked our way south. So enough said on that.
Yeah.
We were talking before the show about how close you were, and you said about 50 kilometers between the Gassiers and Domaine.
Yes, we are both in the Rhône, and there's a lot of similarity in our grapes and in our soil too. It's a part where there's some Villafranchian soil, where Isabelle Farm, free spot where you've got Villafranchian soil, in Gadagne, in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and in Sinargues
And Costières-de-Nîmes.
and Costières-de-Nîmes. So we are neighbors, and farming in the same.
He's on the other
valley.
side of the Rhone, and we have a little bit of a different climate, but if not, soils are quite similar.
So is the other side of the Rhone, is that as big a difference as the left bank, right bank in Bordeaux? Does it make that big of a difference? And I want to ask next, both of you, about your land. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think there's a huge difference. There's, especially in a grape like Grenache that shows its terroir in such a truthful way. So he's from a county that's called the Vaucluse, and Grenache has such a signature there that we don't get in our appellation. We have a very different expression of Grenache. And I think if you taste the wines, you'll get to see that. And then our nights don't get as cool as theirs in the summer, but then our days are a little bit cooler because we have marine influence. We're right on the sea. So that's also very different white wines that come out and very different reds. Just in general, there's a huge difference because the climate is so different.
Terroir talking.
And then we also have soils. So we have the Villafranchienne that are the Rhone pebbles and the deep red clay soils that have a lot of rocks.
The Rolling Stone, yeah.
The Rolling Stones, exactly. But then we also have soils that have crazy high lime, and that are like alluvial soils from the Durance, which is a different river. And so there we make wines that are very, very singular and quite different from the Southern Rhone.
Isabel, what percentage of wine is white as opposed to red at
We produce 30% of white wine, which is unusually high for the Rhone Valley. But we love making white wines, and that, we took a turn to produce that much, and we're really happy about it.
So, Julien,
Hey, Isabel.
your land.
So my land, we were speaking about the similarity of the Villafranchienne soil, which is pebble soil. Me and my family, we like to be on the first coast, living this plateau of Galets Roulés, of Rolling Stone, and we are mainly on a coast with 25% of thin sand, 25% of big sand, 25% of clay, and 25% of thin material coming from the plateau. So it's really the soil we like. There's a lot of diversity of soil in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, 5 different types of soil. But us, in my family, we always liked this soil, which get a lot of sand to give the elegancy and the silky texture, enough clay, 25%, to give some body, and a lot of thin material, and then under soil with rocks of limestone. We are on the falls of Nîmes, Nîmes, which is the town close of Costières-de-Nîmes, And this big rocks is starting in Nîmes and is connected with the Alps. It's a mother rock, so it's a rock which can be more than 10 kilometers deep at some point. The village of Châteauneuf is on the falls, and we have these big rocks under. So it's really important because it's not a rocks which is flat, it's a rocks which is doing plenty swimming pool, connected with the Alps. And so it looks really dry on the top. It's already dry on the top, but the appellation is on pilotis, because if you do a gap 10 meters, you always have water, even when there's a huge drought, because connected with the Alps. So that's really the particularity of our terroir, and it's what we like in my family, and the soil we like the most.
Well, John, I know you guys were talking about it earlier, but that property, and I don't know if it's necessarily your family, goes back to 1300s?
Yeah, 14th.
14th.
So we were at that time during a century, we were buying forest in my family. We were cutting the wood, selling the wood, and selling back land for nothing. Nobody wanted even more plateau with a large pebble, because it was tough to work with horse on it. In my family, we always like this first cost, leaving the plateau. That's why we sold back all the plateau, and we keep this cost where 80% of our vines are.
So was it grapes then going back that far, or it was just farmland?
Yes, grapes always been farmed in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. We had less hectare of vineyard at this time. Now the appellation is 3,200 hectares, which makes the third bigger appellation in France after Saint-Émilion and Chablis. But you need to realize that Châteauneuf-du-Pape is, for an appellation, it's the first AOC creation, and it's the size of 2/3 of the Côte de Beaune plus Côte de Nuit on the cru. So it's just around the village, but it's quite large. At 3,200 hectares, it will be 8,000 acres around that.
Wow. So I have a crazy question. How could you call them pebbles when in English a pebble is a pebble, right? And these things are galets. They're huge.
They're like the
Would
size
you call
of
them boulders?
They're like softballs,
They can weigh more than 100 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, 50 kilos.
100 lambs.
Yeah, for one pebble, we did a concours in Châteauneuf-du-Pape of who gets the bigger pebble. And everybody, because you see pebbles which are unbelievable. Some are weighing more than 40 kilos for just one rolling stone.
Oh, Rolling Stone.
One Rolling Stone.
I like
That's
that,
what they should be.
actually.
Just call them the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones of.
Stones would be the
Yeah,
I know.
You have a great website, first of all, and on the map of all your vineyards, and you have your soil in the different appellations. You have Galets Roux,
Yeah,
Sable,
Sable,
Calcaire,
calcaire,
limestone.
Grès Rouge.
grès.
Grès Rouge, it's a sand. They are red because of the iron, and also because in our place, it's same for both appellation. We had twice the sea. First, the land was in the sea, and with the tectonic, when the tectonic emerged, the land emerged, so it was on the middle of the Mediterranean Sea at the start. And after, when the Gibraltar opening, all the Atlantic Ocean came back, and there was sea again. And so, on some spot where the sea disappear, it's making lake as when you go to visit a salty, where they produce the salt. You see there's decantation lake, and the last one is really red because it developed a fungus, an algium, who create this color. So red color is not just because of iron, it's because there was the sea and it's really important. And it's this algium you see on salty lake, which make you see red color on the last decantation things, who gave the color to the soil. And C was really important because it brings a lot of shell in the soil, a lot of calcium, and it's what makes with the limestone a lot of iodiness, saltiness, sapidity. You can eat minerality. You can call it plenty of different.
So
terms,
what do you want to do you want to grow on those soils? And is that where you're going to put That's where the white grapes are, the Claret Blanc, or is that you're going to put Grenache there?
After we've got Grenache on this type of soil mainly.
Okay.
Putting Mourvèdre on a more clay soil, because the Mourvèdre always like to have the foot in the water and the head on the sun, and depending the orientation of the course, because we can have, it's a large appellation, 5 different type of soil, 13 grapes varietal, and different exposition. You can be on the sunset, on the south orientation, on the sunshine, on north orientation. So it could be, it's just one appellation, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but it could be 1,000 different monopole.
When you were talking about the sea covering your area, you mentioned Gibraltar, the Gibraltar opening. Is that what you said? Was that a flood or the tectonic plates?
No, because what you need to understand, if the Mediterranean Sea was an inside sea, it will disappear because the climate is warm and it will do an evaporation, not in a year, but in 2 or 3 generations, in a million of years. So when the Gibraltar Détroit was not created and when it was an inside sea, the Mediterranean disappeared. And when the Gibraltar, the separation of Africa and Europe create.
Okay. All right, there you go.
Ocean was 300 meters behind, and when it's open, it recover.
Phil, a question for you about going over there and meeting all of these incredible people. What do you learn every trip that you go over there in terms of agriculture and the future of what your winemaking is and growing?
You learn intuition, if that makes sense. Like this morning, sitting around after doing a quick visit to Cayman Vineyards, sitting down having another cup of coffee, just talking about how to deal with mildew, talking about how to deal with this problem, or what are we doing here, what are we doing there, and it's you never stop that learning, because you never stop the discussion and that trying to understand what we're doing better, looking at equipment, saying, first time I went to Châteauneuf, I saw these, we call it arañas.
Yeah. The Rhone Ripper.
It's a cultivator, and that they use to deal with the rocks. I got tired of breaking my discs, and subsequently, I think we have 10 or 12 of these pieces of equipment. So there's the collaboration of farmers getting together, and there's just a lot of intuition and laughter.
So, Isabelle, conversely, do you learn anything here and take it back to France?
No. Julie's like, no. We're just here for dinner.
Wrong question, John.
Just to tell jokes.
I learned a lot here, and I brought a lot of Phil's teachings back home, for sure. So
you're so sweet.
I worked at Enterprise for 4.5 years, learned everything.
4.5 long years.
Hi, Sam. Good morning.
And, I was really young when I started, and so I learned, that's where I started learning really about organic farming and regenerative farming, and got really excited and passionate about it and moved back home, and I'm starting to, we've started seeding 100% of our vineyards to cover crops, which we didn't used to do, and I'm working towards getting a crimper, and we're talking about doing undervine mowing and in-row cultivation instead of like the opposite. So there's a bunch of practices that inspired me and that made sense for me, and I'm trying to bring back.
And we're trying to teach Julien how to irrigate.
Nah. Never we will plant olive tree if we need to irrigate.
And that's the beauty of going to these the various wine growing regions. There's a lot of similarities, but there's such a distinctiveness. And every time that we talk, as he was explaining, the swimming pools that surround Châteauneuf, that you dig down 10 meters and you hit water no matter where you are, and the last time we visited there 2 summers ago, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon you couldn't move, it was so damn hot. But there were little breaks in the levees and stuff going on, but I did see gondolas full of water being accidentally spilled in Bordeaux. But but you do anything to survive. But to understand what they do, and to try to take what they do and apply it to what we have. We have the exact opposite. We're acidic soils. They're calcitic soils. They have all that calcium, and that's one thing we don't have.
It was a chance to meet Phil. Phil is sharing every day his more than 50 years of experience in a nice way of farming, which has the same passion in the viticulturism, and it's great to share. He don't want that I do some mistake he did. I don't want to do some mistake I do. So and we learn about each other every time we speak. It's interesting to share. Specifically when you are always in your estates, you need to take some fresh air outside and to share with all the viticulturist community.
Now, Phil, with all that groundwater, and Julien both, Isabelle was saying they really could use some rain in France and that it's a little dry. But with all that groundwater, does that help at all?
The groundwater he's talking about is water that is constantly moving. It's not. It's in the soils. It's not stagnant. It's
literally flowing down from underground from the Alps to the ocean to the
from
sea.
the Alps, from the Rhone River. The porosity of the soils they have there, it's in movement. It's in movement. And even though with the drought and the heat, we are experiencing. Climate change is not just California. Climate change is a universal problem, and how we are going to deal with it over the next 50 years. We'll be back here in 45 years to talk about.
All right, hopefully.
But that's
Speak for yourself, man.
Well, Julien, what is the climate right where you are? And are you in any kind of microclimate?
Mediterranean climate. So season. We have a cold winter. The past few years, it was warmer winters than it used to, but a lot of frost during the winter. After we have a spring normally with some rain, but some vintage being really dry the past last year, except in 2018 where we had a decent amount of rain in the spring. So we are really concerned about drought, and we can have really, really high temperature. Even in June, if you take, we passed 107 degree on the 20th of June in 19, was never appearing. So really warm day. What I can say, the problematic is more, for me, I think the drought that we could have, because it's tough to make a prediction of the future weather. Maybe we will have some really rainy period. I think it's more in period we think about. But the vines can do some crop without having any rain during the whole season with the dry farming. So far we resist, and vintage really warm before in the 60s were the best vintage. So we arrived to do terrific vintage almost year by year, where before it was exceptional year. Old people like to say, before we were counting good vintage, now you are counting bad one. So yes, there's global warming, but we've got the Grenache and the grapes varietal, or the arsenal of grapes varietal we've got, which are really adapt to the warmness. You need to work with a vegetal which is in massa, to not work with clone, and to work with varietal which are adapt to the place. We use the wood of the old vines, who now starting, I think, to adapt to the warming too, because an size of vines every year is changing. As we are changing, our son or daughter will be different and will have an evolution of what we do because of our lifestyle. And it's an evolution, and the vine also adapts to this evolution, I deeply think.
Mm-hmm.
Just like here.
It is just like here. The problems that we're trying to solve are universal.
Isabelle, I know you have to go. You are flying back to France today. Have a really safe trip.
Thanks.
So nice to see you this morning.
Lovely seeing you too.
And I guess I poured the wrong.
You poured the
wrong vintage.
You jumped ahead. You're living in the future, John.
Yeah.
We poured the 18.
Really good.
This is the Nostre Pays. How do you say it?
Nostre Pays.
Nostre Pays.
Yeah. Nostre Pays 2018.
Our place.
Our place. Yeah. Our country. Not country.
Our
Le pays.
So should we
Paysan, soiler, it's paysan. And it's really working the land of the country.
Oh, there you go.
do you have any shout outs or anything to say to all of our listeners around the world?
I mean, thanks for listening. It's always such a treat to be invited, and I hope you guys have as much fun listening than we have hosting.
Is your wine available in the States?
Yeah, it is.
How do you get it?
It's a good question. The wines you're tasting,
Credit card, with a credit card.
Thank you.
Cash only. Cash.
Cash.
You know, it's hard to know exactly where your wines end up, but we are distributed in California by Kimberly Jones. And so you kind of have to find us in wine shops. I'm very much on the vineyard and cellar side of things. I'm not yet a jack of all trades like Julien is managing everything. So I still have a lot to learn about the business side. I have a hard time answering
What's
those
up
questions.
when you go home? What's next in the fields?
Right now, finishing up pruning. After that, incorporating cover crops. We're staking our new plantings. Let's see. And then, I mean, soon enough in April, we're going to have to start suckering and, season starts. So it's just around the corner.
It's gonna
New
be
plantings because you ripped something out or you're expanding?
We ripped a couple blocks out this year that were really low vigor. One Syrah and one Terroir that had high mortality, and a Viognier block that just was super low vigor. We don't expand as much as, I guess it is an expansion, not by a lot. We planted 5 hectares of Macabeu, Grenache Gris, Clairette. I planted a little bit of Chenin, head trained Chenin in really high lime soils, just to play around with it. It's 0.4 hectares, so it's a quite small block. But I'm pretty excited about playing around with these varietals. And that's about it.
Yeah, the how do you say Macabeu?
Macabeu.
Macabeu. I remember trying to get that on the list at the Grow on the Fig, claiming it was a Rhone varietal because I had found some that I really liked, but it just never really worked.
wasn't on the list of 13, but the list is changing, right? I mean, the list is changing in Bordeaux. The list is changing in these places as both tastes and climate changes.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
is because California, because we're warmer. Do you think we're sort of you know how Australia was sort of a precursor for us when it came to smoke?
Right.
Like, is California a little bit of a precursor where people in France can look at California and go, oh, okay, these are things we might want to get ahead of?
The canary in the ever-warming coal mine.
Right.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's some of this cultural exchange that's happening. Mostly while Phil and Julien like say jokes to each other and high five off microphone. That's the cultural exchange that we're talking about.
Talk about this wine.
So this wine, the Nostre Pays, is off of our estate. That's Domaine Gassier. So this is the limestone with really, really high lime content, and so it always keeps a lot of freshness, bright fruit, high acidity. We're on a blend that's mostly Grenache with Mourvèdre, a little bit of Syrah, and it always has Carignan as well. And we always have a little bit of greenness, I would say, that comes from the whole cluster on the Grenache. But
noble vegetal. I call it
noble
vegetal because greenness is.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like pyrazines or.
No, it's really noble vegetal.
Noble vegetable.
Yeah.
So it's a very bright, very silky, because we have sandy soils out there. So it's a very bright, very silky, fresh Rhone blend that you wouldn't necessarily pinpoint as Southern Rhone Valley if you were to taste it. But that's, we're right on the sea, and it really has a strong influence. Our vines never really stress out there.
Are you northwest of Avignon?
No.
Okay.
I'm south. East from
Okay.
Avignon.
Good for you, John.
Where? So where are you?
South of Nîmes. If you type in
Aix-en-Provence,
Vauvert specifically.
Diable Vauvert.
I'm just trying to find
Basically,
it on the maps.
it's almost
Here.
due west
Yeah,
from
map.
Marseille, right?
East,
East of Marseille.
northeast of Marseille.
East of Marseille.
Yeah, it's
East of Marseille.
This is why we get these wines at a good price.
west
because
west
no
of
one can
Marseille.
find
West of
the
Marseille.
freaking
West of Marseille.
Yeah, it's west of Marseille.
Something like John. when we watch
So
map,
if you look at the map,
upside down.
upside down, exactly.
Go ahead.
if you look at the map, there's a town more like it called Vauvert, and you might see that it's right on the marshes of the Camargue.
Because you got Marseille.
So right as the Rhone throws itself in the Mediterranean, we're on the delta there.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah,
Wow.
quite the view.
I guess so.
And it's like a bird sanctuary, and so it's just it's really cool and
You're just what direction from them?
We are on the
Northeast.
east of them, yeah. So we are 10 kilometers from Avignon. We are touching the Rhone River. We are really on the corridor of the Rhone, which is really important because not a lot of cloud in our place, always wind. We have more than 230 days of wind per year, so always some air. So not a lot of humidity in the air, which is great because it's easy to fight against all the fungus because dry air, and a lot of Mistral, which is this north wind, really dry, which spray for us and which is doing the work for us. So it's easy to farm. We are in a place where it's really easy to farm organic because not a lot of pressure of mold or oidium or mildew. So it's
As long as you're planting them in the right direction.
yeah.
Well, they don't.
well, Goblet doesn't really have a direction.
The Goubelet.
That's the whole point.
You see people, that's funny, that plant around here, and it's like they didn't realize.
All they do is line it up to the fucking
well,
highway.
so it looks
just
nice
drives
when
me
you
crazy.
drive up the driveway, and then everything's like leaned over. But yeah, I guess Goblet, you don't have to really worry about it.
Goblet goes-
Full cover.
Goes in all directions.
Exactly.
I think I heard last night that there's a law or something that if you murder somebody after 4 days of being in the Mistrals, that you're not, you're like Donald Trump. It's not going to stick.
Yeah, it's a good excuse to be crazy in our area as a Mistral because when you spend out during the whole day with Mistral, you come back to your home And it's like if you are drunk and you drink the whole day, because like when you go on the boat.
We're bidding au revoir
Adieu, folks.
to our dear Isabel.
Adieu.
Safe travels, Isabel.
Thank you.
And follow her new Instagram account, Isabel Gassier Wine. She now has a real Instagram account. We're gonna turn into a real winemaker yet. Yeah, right. Because it's an Instagram account that makes you a real winemaker, as we all know.
Don't you wish you were heading to France with her?
Yeah, I definitely want to get on the plane and fly
Right
to
now.
France. Especially today. It's it's 70. Not like it's going to be this weather maybe when she gets home, but it's going to be 72 degrees in Sonoma today. It's finally like that springtime sunshine, late February vibe.
Yeah, my sister in
Definitely, I'm wearing
Colorado
shorts.
can't imagine that it's spring yet. I mean, they've still got tons of snow in Colorado. So,
It's going to rain again this week,
Yeah, it's going to rain again on
Monday, but we'll take a couple days while we can.
Hey, I wanted to ask Isabel about limestone because she has a fair amount of whites. I would think that you would want to plant whites on limestone, right, instead of the reds. But she really liked that minerality.
Too much acid?
No, limestone are good to create the iodiness, the minerality. So it's true for red and white.
Yeah.
It's after you need to have for white in our areas. It's really warm. You need to have a soil who get a good retention of water, and that's a deal. Because if you don't have a production in white, if it's too stressed, it make really concentrate grapes. You miss the acidity, and it's really the key point for white. It's to keep the acidity and to keep some tension, because we are such in an area where it's warm. If you over concentrate, you will make flabby white, and the whites which are fat, and it's not what we are looking for. After some people like and some people plant on that, but for my opinion, it's not my kind of wine.
He said a really interesting phrase. The tension in wines is really important. And like drinking this, there's a great tension between all the different parts of it. I think back to 2012, they're great wines. To me, they lack, in California, because of the easy vintage, there's a little less tension in it. But when you get tension in wines, you get really the expression of the place, and it's like the muscularity of it, the toneness of it comes forth. And dealing with that balance with white wines is really tough. I think a lot harder than dealing with reds.
So are the limestone soils not necessarily the best ones for you to grow white grapes in because they don't hold their less water retention?
No, but after limestone is present in the soil.
Everywhere.
It's not just the mother rocks when we speak about limestone. If in our place the limestone is too close, it's not a good thing, because we need substrate, we need soil. Because if it's too poor, it won't fight against the drought and against the sun. Right. So it's true, for example, in an area like Burgundy, where you see the coast, the top of the coast is first cru, the middle of the coast is Grand Cru, the back of the coast is first cru. The middle is the best because you just have 90 centimeters of soil and the rocks is under. It's because it's more poor. But they've got more water. So if we just have 90 centimeters of soil, it's too poor. And instead to have hydric stress, you will have stop of maturity.
Right.
So but the soil contain a big percentage between 10 to 25% of limestone in the soil. So after, when it's touching the mother rocks, it's 100%, it's a pure limestone. And just the roots licks the mother works. It's not a substrate who makes the alimentation of the vines.
Well, it seems all of France limestone. I mean, look at Paris and the giant quarries and what built that city and every other major city in the country. It's all limestone.
Yeah, like limestone, specifically soil from the Alps, which are present in wines with good iodiness, as you can find in Piedmont. Piedmont is the Alp influence. It's a soil coming from the Alp. Burgundy part is from the Alp, and Rhône, it's from the Alp too. It's really vineyards which are far away, but you need to think that they are connected with the same mountain. Which not makes sense as soon as you think about it.
Yeah.
So go west, and what is the soil in Bordeaux?
Bordeaux, it's more grave. Grave soil.
But still limestone based.
And you've got limestone, but it's more coming. Pyrenees are closer. It's not another mountain influence. If you take Rioja, Bordeaux, it's more influenced by the Pyrenees. It's not influenced by the Alps.
And the Pyrenees are they divide France from Spain?
Yeah, exactly. It's a big
Catalonia.
Spearmint.
Exactly. It's a mountain which is younger than the Alps, the Pyrenees, and it's different influence. It's different.
Brian is waxing poetically about the wine. Talk about it.
Yeah, we just poured the 2018 Châteauneuf-du-Pape Domaine La Barroche.
Yeah.
This is just like the classic Châteauneuf.
Yeah, it's really the roots of Châteauneuf. Yeah, it's kind of, we can say, a benchmark of the appellation.
Totally.
I put my name. It's the cuvée Julien Barrot. It's a selection of old vines, 60% Grenache, but 18% Mourvèdre, some Cinsault, some old Syrah, some Counoise, some Vaccarez. So really the roots of Châteauneuf is roots of blending, taking the identity of every single grapes to create the complexity. It's really things where you can pick the flower, the rose of the Grenache, the cherry of the Grenache. You can find the meat of the Syrah, the spiciness of the Mourvèdre. You can get all these things, the licorice being present too in the ripe Grenache. And so it's really what's we like in Châteauneuf, create the complexity coming from the identity of every different soil, every different grapes. And that's really, really our heart and our roots.
Everything is co-fermented.
Everything is co-fermented. The Mourvèdre is co-fermented. We can have 2 or 3 weeks of difference of maturity on the same grapes in the same village, depending on the orientation. Right. So the early mature blocks of Grenache are more co-fermented with Syrah, which is early ripener,
right.
And the late Grenache blocks are more fermented with Mourvèdre, basically. After the Counoise, the Cinsault are often fermented with Syrah. The Counoise is often fermented with Mourvèdre more, or with late ripening Grenache, but it's not every vintage, because the only rules is there's no rules. It's not us who decided. It's the weather, the vintage, which is decided for us.
Just to like sort of reiterate that, basically, every lot is a co-fermented lot, but as the harvest sort of, or that's kind of the concept, but as the harvest progresses, different things are coming in from different vineyards, throughout the AOC, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we can do 100% Grenache tank too. Right. It's helpful to co-ferment the Grenache, specifically in hot years, because it's really a sugar builder, and we can have an amount of sugar which is at the end tough to ferment, doing really high octane. So Syrah and Mourvèdre are always less concentrated in sugar than the Grenache, so it's helpful to co-ferment to finish well the end of the fermentation.
Right.
Also,
this is an incredible wine. One of my favorite wines that Julien produces is called Pure.
I wanted to get into the Pure because it is when everybody realized how crazy you were. But I want to talk before we get into that, since Phil's getting there's a winemaker more important than anybody at the table calling him right now, so he's getting up and going to talk to that guy.
It's Tony.
It's Tony Biaggi. Tony Biaggi on the phone. We don't rate. Hi, Tony. So can we talk a little bit about, in a typical year, like putting together a blend like the 2018, taking all those different lots of the different fermentations, what the different sort of blends bring to the final blend?
After the blending, it's easy. Huh? We just blend what we farm. Huh? So every vintage we've got the same blocks and same plots to pick. The thing is we put all together and we taste.
Right.
On some rare vintage, it's just perfect like this. So the blending is down by itself. But we really think about the first third, the middle palate, and the finish. And we make a decomposition of the tasting in 3/3. We don't need to have a strong attack in a middle palate, which is light, or overbuilt middle palate. We want to finish on the saltiness, the iodiness, to have a good water mouth and not finish on a sucrosity, on a sugar fault. So making the decomposition and putting out 2 or 3% of, per example, some Syrah, which are tight, or another blocks which on this vintage was really tannic, we can arrive to be on an elegancy, aerian, feminine things that we are looking for on Domaine La Barroche on this cuvée.
And you built a gravity feed cellar, so all the grapes come in on top.
Yes.
And are all
exactly. We moved out a lot of soil to build the wineries. The vinification cellar, it's in the soil, so the tank are fed by gravity, and the aging cellar is 9 meters in the ground, so it allows us to have really natural condition, no cooling system. We've got a well in the aging cellar who gave us the humidity, so we arrive by chance, thanks to the builder doing such good things, and we have the chance to recreate the natural condition. So that's a chance.
It's sort of cave-like. It's a built building, but it has cave kind of conditions with the and talk about the well.
Yeah,
and I know Brian lit up on that. So
the well's incredible.
In the barrel room,
I've never heard of this.
It's a hand dug well.
Yeah,
that goes down about 10 meters.
Yeah. It's at 12 meters of deep, and it's water coming from the soil arriving there.
And you can look at
so it helps to have the humidity in the tank.
The profile of Châteauneuf in this well, it has a glass top on it, and we've had a lot of bottles of wine looking into that well.
Wait, can you drink directly out of that?
No, you have really long
it's
arms.
Not the water we are drinking, because we are not drinking any water. We don't want to rust.
But you gotta have some water to make your coffee.
And there's 85% of water. The most pure water is in the wine. Huh?
Yep.
So 85% of the water contained in the wine is water which is going from the sky, passing through the roots, and coming in the grapes. The best water you can drink.
so. Sam, make your espresso.
That's what they call it, pure.
Grenache-based
Just
coffee.
pour some wine into the coffee maker.
Why not?
Do you have brothers and sisters? Who else
I have a sister I'm working with, Laetitia. So we run the estates together. We took over for my parents, and my father is still the most active retired in Europe. Happinessly, he's 74.
Yeah, great guy.
And I took over of a serious soiler generation. Everybody will love to plant 100 years old vines, but you cannot. You need to take over from serious generation. So it's really, our target is every vintage to have 1 more years of average age. It's our principal goal. It's our principal target is to have our work is the works of perennity. You need to make perennity for your vineyard. It's the first objective of your work.
Yeah.
Doing wine is a second target.
Yeah.
Do you use rootstock there, like St. George?
Yes, we come back. It's what we were doing before the 50s. It's been stopped, but the last plantation of white, we planted white Roussanne, white Clairette, white Grenache, and we planted also Counoise. All have been grafted by hand. And we were speaking about interest to speak with other wine growers, specifically with Phil, which is all grafting. And I did the T-bud grafting. We put rootstock in place during 3 years. And we graft on T-bud, advised by Phil during a discussion. So it's really what we were speaking before. It's sharing things, and it makes it logical, because when you build a house, you build the foundation, you stay to have dry foundation, and after you build the house. So it's making sense. And we can see with the 100 years old vineyard, which get no disease, which are still alive, still in good shape, that this works. The empirism is the best science. When it works since century, you don't need to prove it by science.
It is proven. It's proven by experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what is you say every year the goal is that the average year of the vineyard, of the vines is 1 year. What is the average for the vineyards right now?
Average in the vineyard is 65 years old. We have 1/3 of more than 100 years old vines, some more than 120. We've got the phylloxera in 1865, so first vineyard been replanted late 19th century. We've got vineyard of 70 years, of 60 years, and we have some young baby of 3 years old.
Right.
Because we had the opportunity to buy some neighbor who was stopping the activity, and with terrific soil, but we prefer to put out the vines to make the soil sleep during few years and to replant them. So it's a long time investment, but you don't need to work for you need to work for the future generation. And that's why we are there and successful, because the past generation, we don't need to forget the history, and the past generation work heavily for us, and we need to really respect that.
Do you have a young son?
Yes, I have a young son named Charlie.
Charlie.
Which is the best
Charlie's birthday on Monday.
Tractor driver.
Yeah.
He's the best tractor driver. To work on this. I hope he will work as well when he will have 20s, and he works now when he gets 7. I have some doubts.
That's the idea.
Charlie's birthday is Monday, no?
Yes, he's turning 7 on Monday. I am the
anniversary.
So I won't be there. Yeah. He's in Alsace. On my wife family, which are also in.
Cheers to Charlie.
Cheers,
Charlie, happy birthday, Charlie.
Happy birthday, Althea.
Happy birthday, Althea.
Althea's
Oh
birthday
yeah,
tomorrow.
really? When?
Althea's birthday is tomorrow.
Oh,
She's taking over the tasting room.
Charlie and Althea separated by a couple continents.
no.
Yeah, well, you know.
Is she 5 now?
She'll be 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she's a grown-up 5.
She's tall.
No, she's just intelligent.
She's intelligent. Thanks, John. She takes after her mother, and
I poured it out. No one padre filio.
You want to drink out of the spit cup, right?
Like, no, don't pour it out.
No, this is not wine you want to pour out. So
it's
even on a Saturday morning at 11 o'clock.
2018 Châteauneuf-du-Pape for breakfast.
Yeah.
It's like, have a sip of this, have a sip of my coffee, have a sip of water, rinse, repeat,
Yeah, exactly. Some people ask me, when should we drink your wine? They ask for a period. I say, you should drink when you wake up in the morning. It's a good time to drink it.
85% water. It's hydration.
And I got to remember that one.
Yeah, it's 85% water. The best water you can get. It came from the sky, through the ground, through the roots, into the berry.
Yeah.
Best filtration ever.
It's pure.
It's pure.
Your
It's
wines
pure.
are available in America, yes?
Yes, we work with few distributors. We have a fantastic distributor in California, which is Chambers and Chambers, run by Suzanne and Savannah Chambers. So wines is available. I was yesterday tasting, for example, in San Francisco in Flatiron. We get our wines and plenty of other wine shops and restaurants. So yeah, we are happy to have such great partner for California.
Okay, and does the white wine ever make it out of France?
The problem with the white wine is I drink a lot of white wine. And so we start doing the white wine in 2003. We start selling it on 2016 vintage when we built the new winery. My banker advised me to sell some bottle.
Yeah. Say, why don't we have any record of sales of the white wine? We've been making it for 13 years.
No, after it's a really small production, we drink a lot, and also we will start to fix that because 6 years ago we planted, as I was telling, some Grenache, Roussanne, and mainly Clairette. One of the Clairette blocks is 4 times the blocks of what is doing pure in white in the moment, and is touching the pure blocks with exactly the same soil, the same orientation. So maybe in 2024 vintage, so in 2026 we will have more white present on the market, and we will do more white, which will allow us to present them to other people than the friends and the family.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate to have a couple bottles in my cellar.
Still,
Yeah, so if you want to take the wine, go to Phil House. He's got bottle and he's
right.
Where are the wines available? 16600 Norma.
Yeah, come on up.
The gate code is
Moon Mountain.
You know, it's as you said the word pure 3 or 4 times there, and we started talking about it when I got rudely interrupted by another winemaker,
Tony
Biaggi, who said to make sure that you don't do anything wrong today.
He's drinking water, 85%.
He's drinking water. This is that vineyard right next to my house, the young vines that we planted.
Grenache.
Grenache, with a little bit of
Mourvèdre
and 19 vines of Alicante. Just
Grenache Teinturier.
Do not make a rosé.
no,
Do not make a rosé.
no, never make a rosé.
Alicante is the 14th grapes varietal in Châteauneuf.
Alicante is.
Yeah.
Julien, is there the kind of movement towards regenerative farming in France as there is around Sonoma and California?
After we have always been concerned about working organic. The only difference with the drought we've got, and as we are not irrigate, in my family we are not following cover crop during the whole year. We cover crop a bit during the winter, but with natural cover crop.
And what does that mean? Natural cover crop
so
is whatever grows.
We don't. Yeah, exactly. The plants will grow in our area, and we like working the soil to liberate nitrogen and to help the plants to push, to have some more vigor in the vines, to have some more shadow. After it's we have a pruning which is really regenerative because we just farm bush vines, which is for us a more natural pruning system, and we don't speak about soft pruning in gobelet in bush vines because bush vine is a soft pruning.
Bush vines and gobelet the same thing?
Yeah.
Yes, because this gobelet, because the gobelet is round and open, it's like the Mexican.
Explain that, will you, Phil?
Well,
gobelet is bush vines.
Bush vines. There's no trellis system.
Okay.
Head trained.
Head trained vine. The center is always open, so that it is. That's where the gobelet comes in. So you have
goblet.
the goblet.
Okay.
You have air circulation. the fruit hangs with integrity from off the branches.
In dappled sunlight?
It's allow us also to have the grapes, which is protected by the sun, and also the shadow. It's doing kind of umbrella. Yeah. So you've got a bit of a microclimate inside of the vines.
So all the clusters you want are in the inside of the goblet?
Not the cold, but it's less warm than it should be, specifically when it's 1 p.m. and when the sun is on the zenith, and it's when it's warmer.
Yeah, and there, because of the mistrals, the vines are extremely short. You really have to have a strong back.
You mean low to the ground?
Low to the ground.
Yeah, you need we call baby vines before 40 years old, because as we prune really slowly, because if we prune and to try to make high bush vines fast, it will break with the wind. So we want to have a strong arm. That's why it takes 40 years to be at the level of high for the grapes we want to have. So it's really...
so you got to build that core before you can go any higher, yeah.
Because Grenache is a very vigorous growing plant. In the springtime, it would come out, and before it really hardens off to the bud, in the wind, especially younger vines, 1, 2, 3-year-old vines, when you're training them, will just tear apart. Wind will come up and just tear them apart.
Yeah, it's a wind who can go more than 80 miles an hour. Yeah. You know, so it's strong and it can break. It breaks the bud, but it will never make disappear or yield. Yeah. You know.
Wait.
It's but just don't go in the vineyard after if there's a strong mistral in the middle of May or end of May, so around the flowering. You go the day after in the vineyard, you think you lost everything. Yeah. It's just a disaster, and the vines is shocked by that, but it recover after 3 or 4 days. Yeah. It's starting back to be on a nice showing.
The winds really stunt the vine from growing. Yeah. And I swear, as Julien said, going out into a vineyard that's in full bloom, and we have and I remember going through a steel plow after a frost. I said, God, there's not going to be any fruit at all. And as long as you have confidence, and sure, it might be a lighter crop than normal, the vine does seem to rebound and present itself to you with a good sized crop.
So you don't have shatter. You do.
You have shatter. Shatter is something that you embrace.
You almost want shatter with
coulure is shatter.
Yeah,
coulure is shatter. What we because Grenache is already grapes, which is really sensitive to shattered. Yeah. What we do with field blending is a good things to fight against shattered. Some grape varietal get really good influence on Grenache flowering, specifically the claret. If you field blend with claret, it gave a good signal during flowering, and you have less shattered. That's a part of the things why people were field blending to fight against the shattered. And all the old vines, and now also the new plantation, we always field blend at 1% of the blocks to fight against the shattered.
This is one of the things I learned 2 years ago, walking, visiting Julien at his new house. There's a vineyard out in front. That 1% in the Grenache block, you always have some claret. It doesn't make sense academically because grapes are self-pollinating.
Right.
But having that biodiversity in that vineyard seems to help calm it down and have a better set.
Yeah, the Grenache cannot be field blend. You cannot put vines of Grenache, for example. If you put on Grenache in the middle of a blocks of Mourvèdre, it will never ripe.
Yeah.
But when you field blend, The ripeness, it gives signal. You can think it's a bit esoteric, and you can think about it. It's like telepathy. Some people think about it. But we have more than this. We know that in the garden there's some plants which are friends with some others, and there's plants which are enemy.
Yeah.
It's the same with the different grapes varietal. We speak about agroforestry, to plant some different little tree, big tree in a vineyard, and it's really important. Sonoma, and specifically 16600, is the best example we can have because it's such a natural place with plenty of different tree. Different
lots of different plants growing there.
Different plants there.
For sure, there's some good plant in your field, and but that's important to have a good mycorrhiza in the soil, to have a good life in the soil, and that's one of the key points.
And you know, there was a phrase that that was driven into my head in the recent trip I took to Virginia, looking up vineyards there. Biomimicry. You know, you think about you go out into an ecosystem, and there's never a monoculture. There's always the complexity in our surroundings, and that's what. Even though we're doing 100% Grenache Blanc, you want to have some biomimicry in there. You want to have some complexity in there, and that's when you said that's what every time I talk, I learn something more about it, and that's where the intuition of farming, where you can't find that in a class. So
that's interesting, though. That I always thought if you had a Grenache vineyard and you had all the flowers blew off, basically you're screwed.
You are.
Oh.
But you might not only, but you'll end up with maybe a ton to the acres.
Muchos Piedras is a great example of that.
We just
the insane variability in yields that we get, and what we're pouring the 2019. There's 50 cases of it. 2021 we'll have enough to actually be like a regular wine club wine.
100 plus cases.
Yeah. And then 22 is back to like 25 or 40 cases.
Right, and the same size vineyard. It's just you're getting different yields.
But
based
also
on,
it's sort of the bug is a feature, with Grenache, it's big berry variety, so you want some shatter, otherwise it'll squeeze itself out.
Exactly, shatters is positive, but when instead to do grapes, it's making a tabac sick, just tabac and no grain at all, that can be problematic. But if there's no shatter, on Grenache, it will be a big producer of grapes. Grenache do not support the mediocrity of the terroir. It needs to be planted on a poor soil. If the soil is too rich, it will produce too much. And what is magical also with Grenache is the best sponge of terroir. Because Grenache...
Sponge of terroir.
I like that.
I know that's a sticker.
Because the Grenache is not getting a huge varietal character as you can get in Syrah, in Mourvèdre, in Cabernet Sauvignon. They've got huge vegetal and varietal character,
Right.
Grenache is not taking the terroir. He's just putting the terroir out. That's why if you have a mediocrity and a too rich soil, not adapted for the vines, it can be the worst grape. If you have a fantastic terroir, it's the best to sponge the good things of the terroir.
Really, the expression of it. That being the whole concept behind Adutet, having the two different blocks planted, in two different valleys, two different counties, farmed the same way, vinified the same way, a total expression of terroir.
Yeah.
Phil, if you had a chance to add a third vineyard to the Adutet line, what would you choose?
Muchos Piedras.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
And that vineyard is
one close
That's
of
the one
our
next to my
house.
parents' house.
yeah.
It's a fantastic
Just down the hill?
exposition too.
Incredible exposition.
Yeah, the exposition is unbelievable for these blocks.
And that's the same clone, except the only difference. And I gotta when we were doing some replants this year, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna have two or three claret vines.
Right. I like. So that's what I was going to ask. As we, fix misses in Grenache vineyards and plant new Grenache vineyards, are you going to incorporate this? Throwing in a stick of claret budwood into every box of budwood that goes out.
Total randomness. The complexity of randomness, and yes. So as long as I remember.
Do you pick the claret
At the same time, yeah.
at the same time it goes in?
Yeah, all what is field blend is picked at the same times.
So the Grenache has a 1% claret.
Yeah, more or less.
More or less.
Yeah. There's also the 14th grapes variety we were coaching before, and there's even some table grapes in the blocks because every single 100 years old vines, there's 2 or 3 table grapes that we pick also because before they had these grapes to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the Rossi. We did that at the Rossi Ranch. Miguel's vines.
Yeah.
And what would make the difference between this bottle right here and this if it was done in the Audoutet style?
So vinification.
The vinification, it's just a more intense winemaking protocols.
How so?
The delastages.
And we do it a little bit now with Muchas Piedras. The problem really we can't ever do it with Muchas Piedras is that thing we talked about with the variability of yields. The Audoutet process works best in these like 3 to 4 ton lots with sort of a critical mass for the cold soak period, for that non-alcoholic aqueous extraction before it starts fermenting. And then particularly that post-fermentation time when, it's on the skins, that extended maceration. So it's impossible to predict if you can do that with Muchas Piedras or not.
Muchas Piedras is, by vine count, about 1.25 acres over a 2-acre piece of property. And that's why I keep wanting to talk more about the pure block that he has. But that's,
I know we got to get into. We have to talk pure.
Having that limitation, with Audoutet, with the Oakville Grenache block is 2.5 acres. Rossi, where we're getting our fruit from every year. I could go 2 to 4 acres. All from the same spot. So we were able to control that fluctuation in production and control the vinification that way. With Muchas Piedras, like last year, the 2022 vintage, as they were dumping the grapes, it was like having a box full of monkeys that are just totally tied up because these.
Was that game Barrel Full of Monkeys? Remember that? Your kid plays that game. It's like a bunch of plastic monkeys in a barrel.
Yeah.
Monkeys in a barrel.
Monkeys in a barrel because they were all how they get all tied up and don't want to come out in this one big mass because there was more stems than there was berries. And so if that happened at Rossi. But I make sure that we have enough to fill our 3-ton fermenter.
Right.
So we'll never have that luxury at Muchas Piedras.
Mini punchin'? Mini
punches? Yes, they have mini punches. They're called barrels.
I mean, is there something in between? I mean,
maybe you could
like 150 gallon.
I don't know. We'll have to have some custom barrels made. And I get $300 Audoutet Muchas Piedras. Pay for those barrels.
Well, we're going to talk about pure now, but Julien, I was on your website, and every single wine I went to, it says currently out of stock and unavailable.
Good job.
But that's on the website.
Letitia on that one.
So it's already in the distribution line.
Like I told before, if you want some, there's some in a private cellar of Philippe Couturier and Montaigne. So the number and the address is
16600 16600.
No, they are available in California.
Okay.
Plenty of
Good.
great wine shop gets them. So just go on there.
Oh, we have some listeners who want
wine search. You can find it. Plenty of place.
Okay.
No.
Good.
And Chambers and Chambers, national importer or just California?
No, they are distributing in California and in Hawaii. They are distributors. They are not national importer. They are really specialized just in California, having a portfolio which is just fantastic. And being distributor since 50 years, created by Suzanne and his dad 50 years ago. And incredible people on the floor and really good soul distributor.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, let's talk pure.
Let's talk pure.
Let's talk pure.
So, a white wine with a red label and a red wine with a white label.
Yeah, it makes logic.
Describe the pure sort of how that concept came to you. What it's all the old vines, right?
The concept will come by itself. We have the chance to have really old vines blocks on the top of the Rayas district between Grand Pierre and Pointu area, so at the end of the wood of Rayas. It's red sandy soil over there. And vinifying the first years alone, when you taste it, you say, you don't need to add anything.
Right.
It's a construction which is really on the line, really thin. And it's a blocks, if you put in addition of the Julien Barrot cuvée, it will not add anything and you will waste the magic of these blocks. Right. We were speaking about the color of the label. It's not Cartesian, but the blending is not Cartesian. It's not because you take the two best blocks of your vineyard and you put together that you will do the best wine. It's like in cooking. If you take the salt and you eat 100 grams of salt by itself, it's disgusting. If you taste a steak without salt, it's disgusting too. You just need the tiny piece of salt on your steak to make it explode. It's the same with blending. It's not Cartesian. 1 + 1 can equal 3, can equal 1. It's quite never equal to.
Right.
So it makes sense for us to have a white label on the red and to have a red label on the white. It's our logic.
Yeah. And so how do you come up with the blend?
There's no blend.
There is no blend. It's done really on a Burgundian way of thought and really opposite of the roots of Châteauneuf. So tough for us at the start doing it because it's really against our religion in Châteauneuf.
Question authority.
Exactly. And it's really a pure Grenache. Just one blocks, one single large foudre of 80 years old oak. So it's really the purity, the hedonism of single plot, single grapes that you can get in Burgundy.
So when you had this realization that this wine needed to just be itself, what was the reaction from your family, from your neighbors, from other producers? And because it is so contrary to sort of the roots of Châteauneuf. Some
people start doing cuvée in 98, so they opened the road. I was just following what already been done. And my dad, who was not bottling by itself, but just few vintage for friends and for restaurants, they wanted their wine, was often bottling just Grenache because he was selecting always his best food. So we say that cuvée been creating for the first time in 98. 98, you had some famous cuvée centenaire from Les Cailloux. You've got Chopin from Janas. You've got Hommage à Jacques Perrin, which are terrific wine and terrific cuvée. But before it was not, or Cuvée du Pape from Montolivet, or Réserve from Claude Ducaillou, which are fantastic cuvées, which are selection. And people think that no cuvées were done before, but what you need to understand, it's in the 50s or in the 60s, in the 70s, people were just putting 20% of their vineyard in wine. So for sure they were just doing one wine.
Right.
But it was a cuvée.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Okay.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And the rest of the wine that they made went into
We had a strong négoce. We have a fantastic négoce in Châteauneuf, which is almost selling 50% of the people are not bottling by itself, but using the négoce. And we have a strong négoce, really qualitative négoce in Châteauneuf by chance. And people were living about that. And before the 60s, a lot of Grenache from Châteauneuf were not put in Châteauneuf-du-Pape appellation. They were
They were put into Burgundy. I mean,
they were putting somewhere else.
Wait, so is there a white pure?
Yeah, there is.
And so what's the varietal? It's all claret?
So
Hold
it's-
on to your
it's-
pants.
It's 100% claret. We like to say that in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Grenache is the king and claret is the queen.
Yeah.
And the boss are really adapted to our climate because ripe Grenache gives you the licorice. The licorice is an aroma which is really fresh. And claret also gives you some badan, some phenols, some anise flavor as a character, which is also fresh flavor. So we need to have a grapes varietal which are giving fresh aromas.
Yeah.
Because we create the freshness and what you call minerality or whatever you want by few things, by character of the aromas of the grapes, which have to be fresh character, by the yodiness coming from the deep roots and salt yodiness, umami you can call that as a fifth flavor is a fresh aromas. Noble vegetal you can get in some grapes as the minty character of the Syrah, or the vegetal, noble vegetal you can get when you use them, and the bitterness also of some grapes varietal. It's all of that which are create the minerality and the freshness. Minerality get no sense. Mineral are present in every type of soil. But all these things make freshness. You can taste and acidity too. But you can taste a wine with 4 of pH, which is fresh. And people will say, oh, there's a good acidity in this wine. No, it's not about the acidity, it's about the freshness. And nobody wants to taste a wine which is acidic because you will split it on the floor. You want to taste a wine which is fresh.
Yeah.
And you want to taste a wine who make you water mouth. Because if you don't water mouth, you don't drink another glass.
Right. Or eat food.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true. And freshness comes from ripe fruit. And
By
Julien,
white wine with red labels and red wine with white labels. It's all up is down.
Julien, in talking about the decision to harvest, and you think it's ready, go back home, wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's you have confidence that your plant can produce fresh, ripe fruit. When the tomato is ripe and you bite into it, it explodes with flavor. The same thing goes with grapes.
Yeah.
You know, I was at a tasting yesterday, and I won't go into the.
Were you at the Oakville tasting?
No. This is a private tasting, and that there was a wine. It was one of the 18 wines that we tasted was low alcohol, sort of quote unquote hipster type wines,
Right.
And it was an outlier because there was no freshness.
Right.
There's not because a fresh strawberry. A fresh strawberry is on the verge of rot, and that's what you want to get in it when you. This is totally my opinion and what a lot of people share. You want to get that right before it happens. You get it before it happens, but that's when you get the freshness of the fruit.
So it was more like a green strawberry that had acidity, but no real, nothing else going on.
The strawberry that had acidity and
Yeah.
was horrible.
Yeah.
It was an outlier of 18 different wines.
Right.
So that's why he gets away doing pure.
Well, it's one of those interesting things where you want to balance everything in a wine. And, you taste some that are a little too round, a little flabby. You want that tension. You want those edges. I certainly want to taste the tannins. I certainly want, it's all about an interesting glass of wine. It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have, all 5 flavors, right? You have to have that noble vegetal.
Thank you.
Julian's giving a strong thumbs up to the Muchas Piedras. So
That's a good
Fantastic wine.
It's good, right?
we're gonna put a white. We're gonna put a white label on that now.
Yeah.
A lot of dimension.
Borrow a label that says pure on it.
Just put a.
Fair enough. She looks pure.
Julian, what do your wines sell for retail?
He doesn't.
Depending, we are doing 3 wines in 2021. Liberty should be around a retail price around the 35.
Really?
35 Liberty, which is a Vin de France, which are doing 1,000 blocks of 1,000 Rhone. The Julien Barrot is around between $65, $70, and the pure will be more on $130 or $140 dollar.
Beautiful.
And the Rhone white, priceless. The pure white.
But after
Sold out.
Phil Couturier gave it for free. He's got plenty in his cellar, private cellar in Moon Mountain.
I know John has to get out of here soon to go to his.
I do.
Other radio gig. Julian's
radio
got to get
show.
out of here soon because he's got a cigarette in his hand. Should we
Yeah.
try and wrap it?
Sure. Absolutely. No problem.
I knew you had a question though. What's your last?
No, I'm all good.
Okay. Brian?
You're very pensive right now. You have
No, I just want access to that white wine, but
You know the gate code.
You're welcome to come at Châteauneuf-du-Pape or at Phil
Phil
Private
Couturier.
Winery. Thank you, John, to inviting me. Also, I was so happy to share this time with you. I was a bit stressed doing a radio emission,
Right.
but if we share together without radio things, we will do the same things.
That
That was fantastic experience. Thank you for sharing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
So much fun.
We've been talking about how to get a microphone in front of you for a long time. So we're happy that we finally made it happen.
And I guess my final comment, Sam, was I'm really thinking of changing plans.
Right, you're going to take a little trip to the south now.
Yeah,
you
it's
go-
like
either
now
that
that I happen to know a couple people
Yeah.
down there, right? Yeah.
Go south.
Go south, south, young man.
And
Yeah.
a shout out to Isabel for sharing her
Always.
her family wines.
yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful
these
stuff.
wines are great,
Yeah.
and
The wines
they're
are
available.
wonderful.
She didn't talk about their sort of second label wines, the Hellas of Jupiter and the Chateau de Nage are available at like Total Wine all over the country. So you can find these wines. Got to work a little bit, but they're out there. Or talk your way into Phil's cellar.
Sam, this will be out this Friday. So, shout outs.
I think it'll be out in 2 Fridays.
Okay.
By now, if you're on the our mailing list, your Phil sent me spring release email is out. Some great stuff in there. We got the Simon's Cabernet, 2019 Simon's Cabernet, sort of headlining that. A little bit of Petit Syrah available, Rossi Petit Syrah, 25 cases.
Little bit.
Add-on.
Little bit.
Little bit available if you want to grab one. So that's a good one. We have some events. There's not a lot of like Vinyl Sunday events happening until June, but we got a good summer lined up for you guys.
Brian?
We're gonna have fun. Brian, welcome back to the land of the living.
Yeah, no kidding. I've been isolated for 5 days, so it's kind of weird being in front of people. But I wanted to mention that I have always loved Isabel's family's wines, and these 2 wines are amazing. And this and Julian's 2018.
It's just like everything that you want in Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
And almost like he says on the search for licorice or fennel or those things. I almost get like when this was first open, almost like tarragon on the palate. It was like
noble
these
vegetal.
really interesting herbs, but this wine is beautiful, and I can't wait to go up to Phil's house and try the white.
I guess I better move.
Change the gate code. Change your address.
There's a queue in front of your house already. You should go back to your house straight.
Norbom Road.
16600. I don't know whose idea was to put the address on the label.
I hear there was a mighty crash up there yesterday.
Yeah.
Somebody drove off the road.
Somebody drove off the road. I don't think that person walked away from that.
Yeah, I heard it was fatal.
Yeah, so go slow on our mountain roads here in Sonoma.
It could have been a medical thing, so it has not been deciphered.
Yeah, but it's
still too bad.
Take your time.
It is a dangerous road. I mean,
take your time.
Yeah, don't drive.
Don't go to Phil's house. It's a very dangerous road.
We'll bring the wine to you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I got out of the way of a car coming down and just touched a sharp corner of a rock and blam.
All of a sudden there's
zero pressure.
A geyser of dust.
And I pulled into the cop shop down at the bottom, called AAA. They came out and changed the tire. But man, was it, I mean, gash in the side. So, I mean, those rocks are sharp.
The rocks are sharp. The roads are, the hills are steep. Go slow.
Address.
Right, hay muchas piedras.
Many rocks.
There's a lot of rocks there.
But I just wanted to mention Bart wasn't able to be here because
he's busy in his tasting room.
His tasting room is actually open, so if you want to go visit him, you can go to danecellars.com and you can book online an appointment to taste with him.
Went from 0 to 60. Just book online at 16600.
That's
for
great.
5 years.
So happy to see him do this. Really.
No, the tank room. It's awesome.
And one thing we didn't quote in these free wines and we did not speak about, they are all in a climate which is fantastic to grow grapes and to do fantastic wines. So for sure there's fruit and a lot of fruit in every single distinctive wine we've got today. But all what is the best and which is the Graal, it's all the floral character we've got in every wines. And having fruit in wine which is coming from a fruit, it's an evidence. There's no discussion about that, and it should be the normal things in wines. Floral character are more the target, and all get this floral intensity which we are looking for.
No, this has been a fun exploration of Grenache.
Phil, any shout-outs from you?
No, just thanks everybody for doing this. Julian, thanks for stopping by.
My pleasure.
All right, everybody.
Great to have you here.
As Sam always says, review,
subscribe, tell your friends, but only the cool ones.
All right, everybody.
You
Thanks.
can listen to it in France.
You can listen to it.
Absolutely.
I wonder how I sound in French.
Also, feel free to visit if you cannot go to Sonoma and feel private winery. We've got a winery in France based in Châteauneuf where we do fantastic visits. Feel free to visit.
Look it up on
We will
Google.
welcome you and you will spend a good time at the cellar door.
If you mention that you heard this podcast, maybe he'll open a bottle of the white pure for you.
And you can taste white pure at the cellar door.
Right. He won't sell you a bottle because there's none left, but he'll drink one with you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. We are the Winemakers.